There's the half-billion-dollar aircraft fleet that sits unused on the cracked tarmac. There's the 230 million in spare vehicle parts that aren't unaccounted for. There are the handful of waste incinerators priced at a few $1 million each that have never burned much beyond holes in taxpayer pockets. When the U.S. embarked on its massive war-fighting and nation-building efforts in Afghanistan, there was bound to be waste and fraud, but a look back at the reports and letters compiled in 2013 by the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction shows U.S. taxpayers' money dumped down the drain, sometimes tens of millions at a time, more than a decade since the first American troops landed in the Southwest Asian nation. Over the last year, we have uncovered countless instances of waste, fraud, and abuse. Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction John Spoko told ABC News, time and time again, we have found the reconstruction effort plagued by problems of poor planning and poor oversight. Unfortunately, all too often we are not asking the simple questions before we pump money into a project, such as, do the Afghans want it? Do they need it? Can they sustain it? And can we oversee it? We can get this right, but we need to be diligent with taxpayers' funds, and individuals need to be held accountable. What follows in this report are examples of waste SIGAR said it uncovered on the ground Afghanistan in military constructions and general reconstruction projects. Examples: the Pentagon insists are not emblematic of Americans' efforts in the war-torn nation. A spokesperson for the Defense Department acknowledged the challenges presented by helping to build a country in the midst of a war, but said that while there have been some instances of underperforming projects, these are vastly outweighed by the positive cumulative impact of the wide array of successful projects. Singling out a few underperforming projects or mispresenting or misconstruing the reason why a project's result did not turn out as expected, and drawing larger conclusion about the effectiveness of reconstruction efforts detracts from an accurate understanding of the overall positive impact that reconstructions has had on Afghanistan. The department told ABC News. The spokesperson also noted that the problem with many of the projects discussed in the report were uncovered well before 2013 and were only referenced again recently in SIGAR reports or letters. Afghan police locked out of own 7.3 million facility in Afghanistan is a pristine multi-building facility built for $7.3 million for Afghan boarding police. Too bad the Afghans are locked out of several of the buildings and could not find the keys. According to SIGAR reports released in January, the complex for the Imam Shabi Border Police was built to house 175 people, but visiting inspectors only found about a dozen Afghan policemen there in the fall of 2012. The Afghans only had the keys to 3 of the buildings, forcing the SIGAR investigators to conduct their inspections by peeking through windows of the others. The SIGAR inspectors said that plans to use some of the facilities were also unclear, and one building that was meant for administrative work was being used as living space. The barracks, which were designed to house the police officers, were unoccupied. The facility also had no backup electricity, the report said. The site is fairly new, largely unoccupied, and to date has had little need for operation and maintenance support, the report says. In the NATO training mission, Afghanistan's response to the SIGAR findings, which was included in the report, officials explained that the Afghan staffing requirement had changed from 175 people for the Combined Battalion and Company headquarters, when the facility was planned to a 59-person company headquarters by the time it was completed. Due to dispersed daily operations, the report said, facility would rarely be at full capacity. The Pentagon said the building was constructed for Afghan government to use and is subject to their operational requirements, which are subject to change as security conditions change. The Department of Defense Force is on assisting the Afghan Ministry of Interior to develop the capacity to prioritize, budget, operate, and maintain the facilities provided to them, the defense spokesperson said. 36 million command and control center not commanding or controlling anything. In Camp Litnek in the Helmand province of Afghanistan, there is a sprawling 64,000 square foot building constructed for $36 million so far. As SIGAR said, apparently no one wanted or needed. The building was organically envisioned as a command headquarters, but when it became apparently it wasn't necessary as early as May 2010. The Army once suggests it be turned into a gymnasium or movie theater to keep it from becoming a total loss. According to a letter written from SIGAR head John Spoke, one senior U.S. military official told me that his facility was designed for a military division that was never developed and Consequently, a decision was made not to construct the facility, but inspect the building construction started and is now completed. Spock wrote to Secretary of Defense Chuck Hogg. Military officials explained this is an example of what is wrong with military construction in general. Once a project is started, it is very difficult to stop. I believe there are important lessons we can learn from the potential waste of nearly 36 million in taxpayers' funds. To make sure we do not continue to construct buildings that no one will use, Spock wrote. The Department of Defense told ABC News it disagreed with the idea the command center may have been unnecessary. The requirement to build the facility was fully validated at the time it was constructed. The Pentagon spokesperson said, adding all procedures were followed. The U.S. military still has yet to determine the appropriate use for the building once the U.S. government post-2014 entering presence in Afghanistan, which may require use of the facility, is demanded. 500 million aircraft fleet plans sitting on tarmacs. Back in 2008, the Department of Defense spent $486.1 million to give the Afghan Air Force 20 C-27A aircraft, and back in 2008, the Department of Defense and sustained the medium-sized transport planes. According to a SIJR letter to the Department of Defense earlier this month, the aircraft are sitting lonely in the airfield in Afghanistan and the U.S. Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany. The Afghan Air Force, SIJR said, had chosen to use different planes after NATO and the U.S. were accused of inappropriately managing the effort to obtain the spare parts needed to keep the aircraft flights worthy. As the Defense Department put it to the ABC News, aircraft and contract performance limitation occurred, making it increasingly difficult to keep any of the aircraft operational. Because there were relatively few other G222s of the same variant in service anywhere in the world. Manufacture of parts for the aircraft was in decline, resulting in significant supply chain changes that became difficult to overcome, the Pentagon said. The SIJR letter referenced a defense report that said the plane only flew 234 of the targets 4,500 hours in 212 before being shipped altogether. SIJR notified the military it was launching a reviewing of the debate to ensure that the U.S. government does not repeat the mistake made throughout this nearly $500 million project. 230 million in vehicle spare parts may be here, may be not. It's not that the 230 million in spare vehicle parts don't exist or have gone missing. It's no one has any idea where the taxpayer bought parts might be, and therefore didn't know when to stop ordering new ones. That was where the taxpayer bought parts might be, and therefore didn't know when to stop ordering. That was the conclusion SIJR came to in a report released in October. The report said that since the Afghan military did not keep accurate inventory records, it was impossible to know what they had or what was needed. So, to be safe, the NATO group in charge of ordering requested another 138 million in spare parts to add into the mix. The Department of Defense agreed with SIJR's conclusion, and the SIJR report noted that in June 2013, the NATO group began implementing safeguards to help correct the problem, including maintaining the close involvement of the U.S. until the final title transfer for parts had taken place, and even taking back some non-critical parts until the Afghan National Army conduct an official inventory and transfer. 5.4 million waste in incinerators never used, torn down for scraps. Earlier this month, SIJR released a report revealing that U.S. contracted a Denver-based company to build waste incinerators for Ford operating base Sharona for 5.4 million. The project was expected to be completed in August 2010, but after a string of unexpected delays, the incinerators weren't turned over to the military in Sharona until December 2012. Even then, the SIJR report found electrical supply problems that could pose safety hazards, and said the incinerators were set up only to handle 80% of their target capacity. It turned out not to matter, as FOB Sharona was closed in October 2013, with the incinerator having never been used once. U.S. official told SIJR the equipment has most likely been dismantled for scrap. It turned out not to matter, as FOB Sharona was closed in October 2013, with the incinerator having never been used once. U.S. official told SIJR the equipment has most likely been dismantled for scrap. In defense of the waste incinerators, this and another failed an incinerator project, which is noted on the next page of this report. The Pentagon said it takes the concern associated with burn pit smoke exposure seriously, and said that as of this report, all bases in Afghanistan with more than 100 personnel, except for two have closed their burn pits. Those two used the pits under a waiver from the U.S. military. The Defense Department said the incinerator incident in Sarnar is under review. This time, the U.S. spent $11.5 million to buy and install 4 large waste incinerator at Camp Leatherneck. But when SIGAR investors went to Leatherneck to check them out, they found only 2 of the smaller incinerators were being used at all, and those only to partial capacity, according to a SIGAR letter written to U.S. Central Command in July. Instead, the 13,000 plus U.S. military and civilians personally at Leatherneck were burned their waste in what SIGAR said amounted to a safety hazard from toxic smoke. The SIGAR letter praised the military for taking positive steps to getting the incinerator fully up and running and taking additional trash off-site, but called on Leatherneck to stop using their burn pits and to make efficient and effective use of the cost incinerators. How the Army's recent successful laser test could change the future of warfare. In December, the U.S. Army successfully tested a vehicle-mounted laser, destroying more than 90 mortar rounds and several unmanned aerodrones. And an Army official tells Yahoo News that the test could have broad implications for the future, giving the U.S. an edge in low-cost and high-functioning defense technology. Although the laser can only engage one target at a time, we can lock in multiple strikes. Terry Burr, Program Manager, Army High Energy Laser Mobile Demonstrator, told Yahoo News during a phone interview. The number of available shots is extremely high compared to a conventional system, Burr said. Whatever we aim at is what we hit. Back in 2011, the Army first conducted tests using low-power, 300-watt lasers, but the most recent test used a significantly more powerful 10-kilowatt laser powered by batteries and diesel fuel. Although the high-energy laser mobile demonstrator may not sound that intimidating, it was essentially perfect during its test, knocking out drones of airborne targets. The test was conducted at the High Energy Laser System Test Facility, White Sand Missile Range, New Mexico. Going forward, the Army says it plans to increase the power of laser use up to 100 kilowatts. Although alternative power source will be needed to boost the increasingly potent solid-state lasers. This 10 kilowatt is just a stepping stone toward more militarily significant laser, Burr said. The Army Space and Missile Defense Command released a video of the demonstration. In the first 2 minutes of the clip, you can see the laser system targeting a drone. At first, it appears to simply be following the aircraft's flight pattern. However, since the laser itself is invisible to the naked eye, What appears to the plain video on the left hand of the screen is actually a live engagement taking place. Moments later, the drone crashed into the desert sand of New Mexico. Later in the video, the mortar engagements provide the kind of fireworks more commonly expected by the untrained eye, as the mortars explode in mid-air after being targeted by the laser system. Barrer said the mortar and UAV drones replicate battlefield conduction faced by U.S. forces on the battlefield and could provide increasingly useful as the use of military-styled drones become more prevalent in the near future. The laser have another distinct advantage, moving at the speed of light, allowing the Army to stay focused on a quick-moving target. The U.S. Navy has experimented with laser mounted aboard cruise vessels. Back in April 2013, the Navy announced plans to develop a laser-mounted cruiser to the Persian Gulf in 2014. However, there are still some current technological limitations for their use, including unfriendly weather conditions. Several components of the program also remain shrouded in mystery. The Army has not revealed how far its laser can travel or how long they are able to sustain a defense posture before needing to recharge. And while a focus on the technology is clearly growing, it remains to be determined just how many laser-mounted vehicles the Army plans to develop in coming years. The vehicle mounting system was developed over 4 years, and while Barrer says it has been expensive for the military to develop, it's probably a lack of heavy, expensive mountations could make it cost-effective over time. It could be utilized and cost-effective over time, he said. In the end, it could save considerable money. And who knows, it might not be before lasers are squaring off against unmanned F-16s in the field of battle. Ship involved in Antarctic rescue face trouble. An Australian icebreaker carrying 52 passengers who were retrieved from an icebound ship in the Antarctic was told to halt its journey home on Friday after a Chinese vessel involved in the dramatic rescue became concerned that it, too, may get stuck in the heavy sea ice. The icebreaker Ultra Australis had been slowly cracking through thick ice toward open water after a Chinese helicopter on Thursday plucked the passenger from their stranded Russian research ship and carried them to the Ultra. But on Friday afternoon, the crew of a Chinese icebreaker that had provided the helicopter said they were worried about their own ship's ability to move through the ice. The Ultra, which was carrying the passengers to the Australian island state of Tasmania, was told to stay in the area in case the Chinese icebreaker Snow Dragon needs help. According to the Australian Maritime Safety Authority's Rescue Coordination Center, which oversaw the rescue. The Snow Dragon, which is at the edge of the ice pack surrounding the Russian vessel, will attempt to push through the ice to open water on Saturday. The Opera is waiting around 11 kilometers north of the Snow Dragon, said Lisa Martin, spokeswoman for the Marine Authority. The agency said the decision to place the Opera on standby was a precaution and noted there was no danger to any on board the Snow Dragon, but it was yet another wrinkle in the highly complex rescue operation of those on board the Russian ship MV Akademik Shukovsky, which got stuck in the ice on Christmas Eve.